All right, 9.2, special right triangles. You guys have to remember the rules for special right triangles. They're not going to be given to you, so you are required to know these. There's only two. You have two special right triangles, so please make sure you remember them. So looking at this first one, we have our 45, 45, 90. Okay, 45, 45, 90 triangle. And you have to remember what goes where. So in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the hypotenuse is the square root of 2 times as long as each side. Okay, so if you're looking at this diagram, something we should know about this is that when you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, this is an isosceles triangle. Okay, so we know it's an isosceles triangle. So that means these two segments right here are always going to be congruent. Okay, so if they're giving you a segment that's congruent, these two are congruent, they don't necessarily have to tell you it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Once you see that your sides are congruent, then you should automatically know. Second thing you need to know about this, like I said, is you only need to be given one side to find the other two. Okay, you only need to be given one side to find the other two sides. So again, this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. All right, looking at this example, what I want to see on your homework, what I want to see on everything. They want me to solve for x for this question. I want to see you guys labeling these. So x and x are equal, so I know this is a, this is a, this is a radical 2. I need to see that labeled. If you're not labeling it, you need to label them. It helps. Going through some people's homework when they started in class, they were not labeling it, and labeling it helps them a lot. So please make sure you are labeling. So they want me to solve for x, which is my a, so I need to solve for a. So looking at this one, I have 6 equals a radical 2. Keep in mind that's a times the square root of 2, and I need to get a by itself, so I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. These are going to cancel out. Right now I have 6 over the square root of 2, but I cannot have a square root as my denominator. So what do I have to do? You need to rationalize the denominator. Okay, you have to rationalize your denominator. So what does that mean? I need to get rid of that square root of 2. Okay, I need to try and get rid of it. So I need to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. And that's going to give me 6 radical 2 over the square root of 4. Can that square root of 4 be simplified? Yes, because it's a perfect root. 6 times the square root of 2 over 2. That's what I have. Keep in mind, if you're looking at this, you could just take the 2 out of the square root, and you could automatically get 6 radical 2 over 2. I'm still not done. I have to simplify it. This can be simplified. How am I simplifying it? It simplifies by 2. So a is going to equal 3 radical 2. So if I'm looking at this, I did get my answer. A is going to equal 3 radical 2. Any questions on this? Please, now is the time to ask any questions. How did you get that? Where did you get this from? How are we getting there? Any questions on this? It's only going to get harder when we add more steps. So please look at it. Ask any questions on this. All right, looking at this one, I'm looking at my 30, 60, 90 triangles. Okay, again, you have to label. I have my 30, 60, 90, and there are rules to 30, 60, 90s. Okay, the hypotenuse is twice as long as the shortest leg, and the longer leg is the square root of 3 times as long as the shortest leg. So this is something that most people have trouble memorizing. This is the one. Okay, please pay attention to these because you have to remember these. I'm going to write them in order. You have to memorize the relationship. Okay, you have to memorize it. So opposite of 30 is A. Okay, that's my smallest side with my smallest angle. Looking at the next one. Opposite 60 is A radical 3. And again, I need to see that you're labeling these. And then my longest side, opposite 90, is 2A. Okay, you have to memorize those. Have to. Again, I need to see you guys labeling these on your homework. It's only going to help. So how I wrote them is my side lengths in order. And it's from smallest side with opposite smallest angle. Okay, so I wrote them in order. Please memorize them. All right, looking at this example, first thing, I know it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle because they're giving me that 60 degrees. So before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and label. Here's my 30 degrees. Opposite of 30, we said, is my smallest side, which is going to be A. Opposite 60 was A radical 3. And opposite 90 is 2A. I need to see you guys label those. That's the first thing I want to see on your homework. All right, now I have to solve for X and I have to solve for Y. This one's a pretty easy question. Why? Because they're already giving me my A. They already told me A equals 5. They want me to solve for X, and I am also going to solve for Y because that one's pretty easy. If A equals 5, all you have to do is plug in. X was A radical 3. I'm plugging in 5 for A, and I can't simplify this. There's nothing else to simplify. So X equals 5 radical 3. Now it's doing the same thing for Y. Y equaled 2A. Plugging in 5 for A, 2 times 5, and Y is going to equal 10. So yes, this question was definitely on the easier side. Okay, it was definitely on the easier side, but you have to know where everything's going and you have to know what you're solving for. Any questions on example number 2? All right, looking at example number 3, it says the diagonal of a square has a length of 6. What is the perimeter of the square? So looking at this question, I'm going to go ahead and draw my square. So here's my square, a little wonky. But we know a square has 90-degree angles all around. And it's giving me my diagonal of 6. What kind of triangle is this if I'm breaking it up into a right triangle? Okay. It's a what? Think of the measurements. What kind of measurements would I have here? Good. This is going to be a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, let me write that up here. I have a square. I'm going to have a 45, 45, 90 for my square. Here's my 90-degree angle. Here's my 45. 45. I know these sides are going to be congruent. I know I'm going to have A radical 2. They told me that my diagonal was 6. Okay, so this is going to equal 6 right here. So I need to solve for A. Remember, they're asking me for the perimeter, and all my perimeters are going to be equal. So I need to solve for A. So solving for A, I'm going to have 6 equals A radical 2. Trying to get A by itself, I'm going to divide by the square root of 2. These are going to cancel out. I have 6 over the square root of 2. I have to rationalize my denominator. I cannot have that square root as my denominator. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2. I'm going to end up getting 6 radical 2 over 2. Okay, how are you getting that 2? Some of you may ask. This is going to be the square root of 4, which simplifies to 2, which I put right here. All right, so that is what A equals. I solved for A. A equals 6 radical 2 over 2. And a square has how many sides? 4 sides. 6 radical 2 over 2. 6 radical 2 over 2. Wait, I could simplify it. You're right. I'm going to simplify it. Simplifying this. Thank you for catching that. After I wrote it down, I realized A is going to equal 3 radical 2. Okay, so I'm going to erase these and put my simplified answer. 4 sides. 6 what am I putting? Not 6. 3 radical 2. 3 radical 2. 3 radical 2. And 3 radical 2. Going ahead and multiplying it by 4. 4 times 3 radical 2. Multiplying. You could only multiply your 4 and your 3. You cannot combine your 4 with your radical 2. So if you multiplied correctly, your perimeter equals 12 times the square root of 2, and you're done. Thank you for catching that, guys. All right, any questions on this? Yes, my mistake. If you could simplify it as simple as it can get. On your quiz, you have to give exact answers, meaning it has to be a simplified radical. It cannot be a decimal. Okay, so it has to be simplified as simple as it can get. Example number 4, an equilateral triangle has an altitude length of 5. Find the perimeter of the triangle. So what does equilateral mean? All sides are equal, so I'm going to go ahead and draw my equilateral triangle. All my sides in my triangle are congruent. And my altitude is that 90-degree angle right there. Okay, if it's equilateral, it's also equiangular. So all of these are 60 degrees, so that kind of gives you a hint of what kind of triangle is this. Is it a 45, 45, 90 or a 30, 60, 90? Good. Whenever you have something that's equilateral, it's going to be 30, 60, 90. So looking at that, I'm going to go ahead and separate this triangle just so I can label what I need. And they told me the altitude was 5. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 5 right here. And they're still asking again for the perimeter. Labeling my triangle. Here's my 90 degrees. Here's my 30. Here's my 60. Opposite of 30 is A. Opposite of 60 is 2 radical, or sorry, not 2 radical 3. A radical 3. And then opposite of my 90 degrees is 2A. So looking at it, I'm going to go ahead and let me just put these in a different color. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and solve for A because I need to try and find that 2A. I'm trying to find all my sides. All my sides are going to be the same measure. So looking for that 2A, I need to solve for A first. So I'm going to take A radical 3 equals 5, trying to get A by itself. Again, I have to rationalize that denominator. I'm going to have 5 over the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And I'm going to end up having 5 times the square root of 3 over 3. Can I simplify it anymore? No. A is going to equal 5 times the square root of 3 over 3. And then now I'm going to plug it into my 2A because that's what I want to try and solve for. So I'm going to take 5 times the square root of 3 over 3 times 2. So I'm going to write it as 2 times 5 times the square root of 3 over 3. And I'm multiplying it by 2. It's going to give me 10 times the square root of 3 over 3. So labeling my sides, I'm going to have 10 times the square root of 3 over 3, 10 times the square root of 3 over 3, and 10 times the square root of 3 over 3. I'm still not done. I'm going to take 10 times the square root of 3 over 3 and multiply it times 3. So I'm close to getting my answer. 3 times 10 times the square root of 3 over 3. Think of it as 3 over 1 since we're kind of dealing with a fraction. These are going to cancel out. And my perimeter equals 10 times the square root of 3. All right, this one was a lot of work. Any questions on this one? How did you get that? Where does this come from? Questions, comments, concerns? Questions on this one? Yes. So same thing as before, just think of it as 2 over 1 because they're fractions. And I can't multiply the square root of 3. So I'm only multiplying 2 and 5. I can't cross simplify anything. So I'm just multiplying straight across. So if you're multiplying straight across, it's 2 times 5, which gives me 10, and 3 times 1 is just 3. Did that answer it? Okay, yeah. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, again, please make sure you are labeling on your homework. I need to see those labels.